She was just the dishwasher at Harvard. At 2 a.m., alone in the cafeteria, she saw an impossible math problem and touched the chalk. By morning, Harvard was hunting for the unknown genius who had dared to solve it. The clock in the Harvard undergraduate cafeteria ticked past 2:03 a.m. Beyond the stained glass windows, the campus slumbered beneath a pale Boston moon. Inside, the great hall lay deserted. Chairs were stacked, lights dimmed to low amber. The distant hum of the HVAC was the only company left. Except, of course, for her. Eliza Moore, 17, stood alone at the industrial sink. Steam curled around her flushed face as she scrubbed yet another tray, her thin arms aching from the endless rhythm of soap and rinse and stack. She had been here for nearly a year. Nobody at Harvard knew her name. She wore no student badge, no dorm key around her neck. Only a faded gray apron marked her place. Dishwasher, night shift. At this hour, she was invisible. And that suited her just fine. It wasn't supposed to be this way. Once, not so long ago, Eliza had dreamed of sitting in these very halls as a student. She had been a math prodigy at Lincoln High, first in her class, state finalist. Letters from MIT, Harvard, and Stanford had arrived in hopeful piles. Then everything collapsed. Her father's death came suddenly. One winter's day, the man who had filled her childhood with numbers and dreams was simply gone. His business had failed, the debts had swallowed their home, and in his final note, he left only one sentence for her. "I'm sorry, my little star. Keep solving." Eliza had dropped out within a month to care for her mother, now broken and silent with grief. Tuition money was gone. Scholarships expired. At 17, she washed dishes for Harvard's scholars instead of joining them. And every night after the last tray was stacked and the last table wiped, she would pause to glance at the great blackboard on the far cafeteria wall. Left behind by graduate math seminars, the board often bore cryptic diagrams and equations, half erased in haste. To others, it was gibberish. To her, it was a language she had not spoken in too long. Tonight, something was different. Eliza set her last tray aside and stretched, her back cracking from fatigue. She pulled off her rubber gloves, wiped her damp brow, and glanced once more at the blackboard across the empty room. Then her breath caught. The board was filled nearly edge to edge. Dense layers of notation sprawled across its black surface. Integrals, summations, spectral transforms. At its center, circled 3 times in bold white chalk, a single challenge stood. Harvard Seminar Problem Number 6, unsolved. No known closed solution. A chill ran down Eliza's spine. She knew what this meant. These problems were not homework. They were mathematical frontiers, questions no one yet had cracked, but it wasn't the challenge that stopped her. It was a single symbol near the margin. A variant of the Fourier transform, paired with an obscure kernel she recognized instantly. Her father had loved that kernel. Late nights at their kitchen table, while her mother cooked and the radio played softly, he had scribbled similar symbols in his battered notebook. "It's not the solution that matters, Eliza," he used to say. "It's the music underneath. Equations are like songs. If you hear the melody, you'll find your way." She hadn't heard that melody in a year, but now it echoed in her mind. Eliza glanced around the cafeteria, empty, silent. She hesitated. "I shouldn't." She stepped toward the board anyway. Her bare feet padded softly across the tiled floor. The blackboard loomed before her, faintly gleaming in the emergency lights. She stared at it, heart racing. I'm not qualified. I'm not a student anymore. I'm just washing dishes. But the symbols whispered louder. She reached up and touched a small stub of white chalk left on the ledge. Her fingers trembled. One line. Just one. She erased a segment of the failed attempt. Then, from the depths of memory, she traced the kernel her father had taught her, folding it into the broader transform. The chalk whispered softly across the board. She stepped back. A subtle symmetry emerged. Her pulse quickened. Without meaning to, she wrote more. A substitution here. An identity there. The hours dissolved. Her mind entered a flow state she hadn't touched in over a year, the same state her father had called the river. She moved instinctively, her body forgotten. By the time dawn's first light seeped through the stained windows, the board bore a new path, an elegant sequence weaving the chaos into a form. Solvable. Eliza stared at her work, chest heaving. She wasn't sure if it was correct, but she knew it was different, and that terrified her. Footsteps echoed from the hall. Panic surged. She dropped the chalk, grabbed her worn messenger bag, and fled. At the door, she turned back once, the blackboard gleaming with her script amid the scribbles. I shouldn't have touched it, she whispered. Then she vanished into the cold dawn. At 8:00 a.m., Professor Nathan Crowley entered the cafeteria seminar hall, coffee in hand. He approached the blackboard out of habit, prepared to resume the week's battle with problem number 6. One glance stopped him cold. The familiar tangle of failed attempts was gone. In their place, a bold new derivation traced an uncharted path, unfamiliar symbols, yet hauntingly beautiful. Crowley leaned closer. This is not one of my students' hands, he thought. But it's brilliant. His heart raced. Who did this? The hunt had begun. Professor Nathan Crowley wasn't a man who startled easily. In 30 years of mathematics, from Princeton to Oxford to now Harvard, he had faced unsolved problems with a stubborn, almost romantic determination. He had lost more battles than he had won. But he had never walked into a room and found a war fought and won without him. Yet this morning that is precisely what had happened. His blackboard, the same wall where weeks of false starts and broken theories had piled up, now bore an entirely new sequence. Crowley leaned in, mug forgotten in his hand. The flow was unmistakable. Elegant substitutions, deft manipulations of Fourier operators, and a kernel transform variant he hadn't seen used in this context. Impossible, he whispered. For a long moment he simply stared. Then he looked down at the signature line, empty. Which one of them dared do this? By 8:20 a.m., his graduate seminar students began to arrive. One by one they stopped, mouths open. Who did it? Is this the official solution? Did Crowley solve it himself? Crowley said nothing. When the class had fully assembled, he turned from the board and asked, voice calm, "Who wrote this?" Silence. The dozen students exchanged glances. A few shook their heads. One or two looked slightly terrified. "No one?" Crowley pressed. "Professor, we just got here." I didn't touch it. Neither did I. Crowley's eyes narrowed. His gut told him none of them were lying, yet the handwriting was fresh, the chalk still soft. It happened overnight, he thought. He dismissed the class early. Then he walked briskly down to the campus security office. I need access to last night's cafeteria surveillance, he told the technician. The young man blinked. Any particular reason, sir? Just academic curiosity, Crowley said, forcing a faint smile. Within 20 minutes, they queued up the footage. Fast forward, 11 p.m., empty. Midnight, janitorial staff clearing. 1 a.m., empty again. 2:04 a.m., the screen flickered. Crowley leaned forward. There she was. A slender figure in an oversized gray apron, barefoot, wiping her hands on a towel, then walking toward the board. Pause, Crowley said. They froze the frame. A young woman, not one of his students. Younger. 17, 18, maybe. Blonde hair tied messily back, eyes fixed on the blackboard with unsettling intensity. Play. The tape rolled. She hesitated, then picked up the chalk. For the next 45 minutes, Crowley watched, riveted, as the girl moved between lines of equations with practiced, almost instinctive grace. No notes, no phone, just memory and mind. "Who the devil are you?" he whispered. When the video ended, Crowley sat back. "Can you pull her employment file?" "Yes, sir. One moment." The technician tapped away, then read aloud. Moore Eliza, age 17, cafeteria dishwasher night shift, employed since June. Crowley blinked. 17? That's what it says. Family? Single mother, address listed in Cambridge. Crowley rubbed his temples. This changed everything. He stood. "Thank you. This stays between us." "Of course, sir." Meanwhile, across town, Eliza Moore lay awake in her narrow bed. The small apartment smelled faintly of old books and lavender, her mother's one indulgence. In the adjoining room, her mother slept fitfully, thin and pale beneath worn quilts. Eliza stared at the ceiling. "What have I done?" Her heart had not stopped pounding since dawn. She could still see the board, still feel the chalk between her fingers. I should never have touched it. But beneath the fear, another feeling stirred. Something she hadn't felt in a long time. Joy. She whispered into the dark. "Dad, I remembered." Tears welled. Across the room, on her cluttered desk, a battered leather notebook sat. She reached for it, fingers tracing the worn cover. Inside were her father's notes, equations scrawled in looping script, pages stained with coffee and late-night thoughts. She opened to a familiar page. Kernel transform variant. Potential bridge to chaotic harmonics. Her father had spent months chasing this idea, never completing it. And last night, instinctively, she had used it. Was I right? She wondered. But with the question came fresh dread. They'll find me. I'll lose my job. I'll humiliate myself. She closed the notebook, hugged it to her chest, and whispered, "I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't mean to. That afternoon, Professor Crowley sat in his office, notebook open. He had sketched out the girl's entire solution from the board. The more he analyzed, the more astonished he became. It wasn't just correct. It was elegant in a way that suggested deep intuition, not rote learning. 17, he mused. Dishwasher. Self-taught? His phone buzzed. Dean Margaret Wren. Nathan, I saw your email. Someone solved number 6? Yes, and not one of my students. Then who? A dishwasher. A long pause. You're not joking. I wish I were. What's your plan? Crowley tapped his pen. I intend to meet her. Carefully, Nathan. She's not a student. We don't know her story. All the more reason to know it, Crowley said softly. At 8 p.m., Eliza arrived for her shift. She moved quickly, head down, but as she entered the cafeteria, her manager stopped her. Eliza, Professor Crowley wants to see you. Now. Her blood turned to ice. Why? He didn't say. Just asked for you. Hands shaking, Eliza stripped off her apron and followed the instructions. Each step toward the math department felt heavier. At last, she stood before room 314. The door was ajar. Inside, Professor Crowley sat alone, a copy of her board work on the desk. He looked up. Miss Moore? Eliza swallowed. Yes. Please, sit. She obeyed, heart pounding. Crowley studied her, seeing now not a dishwasher, but a mind in hiding. Did you write this? He asked gently, gesturing to the paper. Eliza opened her mouth, closed it. I didn't mean to interfere. That's not what I asked. She looked down. Yes. Silence stretched. Then, to her shock, Crowley smiled. Where did you learn this? Tears threatened. My father, she whispered, before he died. Crowley's expression softened. You have no formal training? She shook her head. Just his notes. He leaned forward. Miss Moore, what you wrote last night, maybe the first true solution we've seen. Do you understand? Her breath caught. But I'm just the dishwasher. Not anymore, Crowley said firmly. I want to see those notes. Tomorrow. Will you bring them? Eliza hesitated, then nodded. Good. And Eliza? She looked up. Don't be afraid. You've done something remarkable. As she left, clutching her father's notebook tighter than ever, a strange new thought stirred. Maybe I am allowed to solve things after all. The next morning, Eliza woke before dawn. For the first time in months, her dreams had been filled with numbers, swirling symbols, flowing patterns that danced and shifted beyond conscious thought. Now, the early light filtered through thin curtains, gilding her small room in pale gold. On the battered desk beside her bed sat her father's notebook. She reached for it slowly, fingertips lingering on the worn leather cover. Keep solving, his final words echoed. A tear slipped free. Dad, I didn't think I could anymore. She opened the notebook, pages soft from years of turning. Equations filled its depths, some neat, some wild with crossed-out attempts. Diagrams of wave patterns, notes on harmonic analysis, chaotic transforms, and margin scribbles in her father's looping hand. Harmony is hidden. Sometimes only intuition hears it. Beauty first, rigor follows. My little star will understand. Her breath caught. He wrote this for me. A knock jolted her from the moment. Eliza? Breakfast, her mother's voice called faintly. She rose, washed, dressed simply, and carefully slid the notebook into her canvas messenger bag. The thought of carrying it to Professor Crowley filled her with dread. What if it's not good enough? What if I'm laughed out of the building? But beneath the fear, something stronger stirred, a thread of quiet resolve. She had touched the blackboard once. She could walk into that office now. For Dad, she whispered. At 10:00 a.m., room 314 waited. Eliza stood outside the door, heart racing. She glanced down at her trembling hands. Steady, she told herself. You faced the board. You can face him. She knocked softly. Enter, came the voice within. She pushed the door open. Professor Crowley looked up from a pile of books. His sharp eyes softened as they met hers. Miss Moore, you came. Eliza nodded, clutching her bag. You brought the notebook? Without a word, she crossed the room and set it gently before him. Crowley opened it with reverence, as though handling an ancient manuscript. The first page made him blink. Good heavens, he murmured. Line after line displayed not only advanced mathematics, but a mind reaching beyond conventional methods. Crowley traced a finger along one particularly dense sequence. This variant, I've never seen it used this way. Eliza's voice was barely a whisper. My father said math should sound like music. He never quite finished this idea. Crowley looked up. Your father was a mathematician? Her throat tightened. An engineer, but he loved pure math. After he lost everything, he spent nights filling this book. I used to watch. Sometimes he explained things. Crowley's gaze softened further. And you remembered? She swallowed. I think so. Last night, when I saw the board, it all came back. He leaned back in his chair, exhaling. Eliza, what you did last night wasn't an accident. It was the work of someone who thinks like a true mathematician. She shook her head. I'm just the dishwasher. No, he said firmly. You are a mind that deserves far more than that apron. He turned a page. Did your father publish anything? No. After the debts, he withdrew, stopped writing. This is all that's left. Crowley closed the notebook gently. It's more than enough. He looked her in the eye. Eliza, I would like your permission to study this further, with you present. I believe some of your father's insights could advance our work. Her breath caught. With me present? Yes. You deserve to be part of this. And more importantly, I want to help you return to your path. Tears welled. I can't afford school. I barely afford rent. One thing at a time, Crowley said gently. First, we study this together. Then we see what doors can open. He stood. Would you meet me here tomorrow, 10 a.m. sharp? Eliza nodded, voice caught in her throat. Good. He hesitated, then added, "You have more to offer than you know, Eliza. Far more." As she left, notebook clutched to her chest, her heart swelled with something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Across town that afternoon, Eliza returned home. Her mother sat at the small kitchen table, pale hands wrapped around a chipped mug. "How was work?" she asked softly. Eliza hesitated. "Different." Her mother glanced up. "Different how?" Eliza sat beside her. "I met a professor. He saw something I wrote." Confusion flickered. "Wrote? Math. On a blackboard. He wants me to study with him." Her mother's eyes widened. "Eliza, is that wise?" Tears pricked. "I don't know, but it felt right. For Dad." Silence fell. Then her mother reached out, trembling fingers brushing Eliza's cheek. "Your father would be so proud." The words broke the dam. Eliza sobbed quietly into her mother's arms. For the first time in months, they held each other. For the first time in months, they shared more than grief. That evening, Professor Crowley sat in his study long after the sun had set. Eliza's father's notebook lay open before him. He traced each line with growing astonishment. This man, whoever he was, saw further than most trained mathematicians. He pulled out an old directory, searching. More, Robert Moore. At last he found a faint entry. Robert Moore, former systems engineer, Cambridge. "A tragedy," Crowley murmured, "but also a legacy." He leaned back, hands steepled. Eliza Moore, the daughter of a hidden mind, and now a mind of her own. He smiled. "Let's see where this leads." The next morning, Eliza rose early. She washed carefully, choosing her cleanest blouse, though its collar was frayed. She packed her father's notebook with reverence. As she prepared to leave, her mother called softly from the kitchen. "Eliza." She turned. Her mother held out a small velvet box. "Your father wanted you to have this, when the time was right." Eliza opened it. Inside lay a silver pendant, a tiny spiral, her father's favorite symbol of infinite growth. He said it meant, always keep learning. Tears blurred her vision. She fastened it around her neck. "Thank you, Mom." Then, with her bag over her shoulder and her heart beating fast, she stepped out into the bright morning, toward Harvard, toward the blackboard that had waited, toward the life that might yet be hers. The sun was barely up when Eliza reached Harvard's mathematics department. The stone facade of Jefferson Hall seemed less imposing today. Or perhaps she had changed. Around her bustled scholars in tweed jackets and students with heavy backpacks. None gave her more than a passing glance. "They don't know who I am," she thought. "That's good." And yet, something inside her stirred. Not fear this time. Anticipation. Clutching her father's notebook, silver spiral pendant warm against her skin, she climbed the marble steps. At room 314, the door was ajar. Professor Crowley awaited her inside, a gentle smile on his face. Punctual? Good. Eliza entered. Please, come sit. She settled nervously across from him. On the table lay several large volumes, a laptop open to a complex set of diagrams. Before we begin, Crowley said softly, I want you to understand something. She met his gaze. Yesterday you said, I'm just the dishwasher. She flushed. Eliza, no mind is just anything. Not here. What you did cannot be taught by a job title. It came from here. He tapped her notebook. And here. He tapped his temple. Tears prickled. Do you believe that? She swallowed. I want to. He smiled. Good. Because today, you will. At 10:15 a.m., Eliza followed Crowley down a corridor lined with black and white, portraits of Harvard's mathematical legends. We are holding a private seminar, he explained. 2 visiting scholars, 1 doctoral candidate, and myself. You will attend as an observer. Her heart pounded. I don't belong in there, she whispered. Neither did I. My first time, Crowley said gently. Come. The board doesn't care what your badge says. They entered room 322, a sunlit seminar room with a large central table. Already seated were Dr. Vera Lynn, spectral theory expert from Caltech. Dr. Michael Patel, combinatorics researcher from Cambridge. Aidan Clark, Harvard doctoral candidate. Young, sharp-eyed, and notoriously proud. All turned as Crowley entered with Eliza. Colleagues, this is Eliza Moore. She will observe today's discussion. A subtle ripple of surprise passed through the room. Aidan frowned. She's a student? An invited mind, Crowley replied coolly. That is enough. Eliza's cheeks burned. She took a quiet seat near the wall, notebook clutched tight. Dr. Lynn smiled warmly at her. Dr. Patel offered a polite nod. Aidan said nothing. Today, Crowley began, we revisit seminar problem number 6. In light of new developments. He tapped the board. Eliza's own solution from that fateful night now stood reconstructed in pristine clarity. We owe this path to Miss Moore. Gasps. Dr. Lynn leaned forward. She wrote this? She did. Aidan's jaw tightened. It is an intriguing approach, Dr. Patel said, but I question the final step. The harmonic folding seems incomplete. That is our question today, Crowley said. How might we refine it? For the next 40 minutes, the room filled with debate. Dr. Lynn proposed spectral deconvolution. Dr. Patel countered with combinatorial folding. Aidan, watching Eliza sharply, finally spoke. Forgive me, he said, but may I ask, Miss Moore, do you even understand this formulation? Eliza stiffened. Crowley opened his mouth, but she spoke first. I do, she said quietly. Then perhaps you can explain why this kernel transform was chosen here rather than the standard Gaussian model. A challenge. The room fell silent. Eliza's hands trembled under the table. You don't have to answer, Crowley said gently. But something within her rose. No, it's okay. She lifted her father's notebook. Because, she began, voice gaining strength. The standard Gaussian collapses the necessary higher-order harmonics at this stage. My father's variant preserves those components, allowing the folding to resolve without destructive interference. Stunned silence. Dr. Lin smiled. "Excellent," she said softly. Dr. Patel leaned back, impressed. Aiden's face darkened. "And the final step?" he pressed. "You left it incomplete." Eliza hesitated. "Because I wasn't sure yet." Then, heart racing, she flipped to a page in the notebook. "But I think this identity might close it." She rose, trembling, and approached the board. "May I?" Crowley smiled. "By all means." She chalked the identity her father had half-finished, then completed the sequence. The room held its breath. Dr. Lin stood. "Brilliant," she whispered. Dr. Patel nodded slowly. "That may indeed close the loop." Aiden said nothing. Eliza turned, breathless, cheeks flushed. Crowley beamed. "Miss Moore, today you have taught us." Tears blurred her vision. I only followed my father's path." "And made it your own," Crowley said. He turned to the room. "Henceforth, Eliza Moore is invited to all future seminars on this problem. Full participant." Gasps again. Dr. Lin smiled warmly at her. "Welcome, Eliza." Dr. Patel offered a respectful nod. Aiden rose stiffly. "Excuse me." He left the room. Eliza stood frozen. "You did well," Crowley said softly. "Exceptionally well." "But I'm not supposed to be here." "You are exactly where you belong." She clutched her notebook tight. "Thank you," she whispered. That evening, back home, Eliza sat with her mother. "How was it?" her mother asked softly. Eliza's voice trembled. "They listened to me." Her mother smiled. The first true smile in many months. "And your father?" Eliza touched the silver spiral at her throat. "He was there." Tears flowed. "They want me to come back. To study. I don't know if I can." Her mother took her hands. "Eliza, your father believed you could. I believe you can. If they open the door, walk through it. But what about you?" "I will be fine. Seeing you shine, that will heal more than any medicine." They embraced, tears mingling. For the first time, light seeped into their small world. For the first time, Eliza dared to hope. Maybe I am allowed to belong here. A week had passed since Eliza Moore first stood before Harvard's seminar board. Each morning since, she had returned to room 322, not as an observer, but as an invited voice. Professor Crowley had made it clear she was no longer the dishwasher. She was, for now, one of them. Yet despite the warmth of Dr. Lin, the quiet respect of Dr. Patel, and Crowley's unwavering support, Eliza felt the cold undercurrent. It came from Aiden Clark. Each day the young doctoral candidate sat straighter, spoke sharper, and watched her with thinly veiled disdain. He had built his identity in this room. Now a 17-year-old with no degree, a dishwasher, had outshone him, and Aiden would not forget it. On the 7th morning, Eliza arrived early. The department hall was quiet, footsteps echoing. Sunlight streamed through leaded windows, painting patterns across stone floors. At the seminar room, she hesitated. "Do I belong here?" the old doubt whispered. Then she touched the silver spiral at her throat. "Always keep learning," her father's words reminded. She entered. Crowley looked up from the board, smiling. "Morning, Eliza." "Good morning, Professor. Please, take your seat." She did, settling beside Dr. Lin. Moments later, the others arrived. Dr. Patel nodded to her. Aiden entered last, gaze cool. "Today," Crowley began, "we explore an auxiliary problem linked to seminar number 6. He tapped the board. A new sequence of expressions sprawled across it, a complex system involving recursive harmonic folds and nonlinear eigenstates. "This," Crowley said, "is a related but unsolved problem in spectral analysis. No published solution yet exists. Let's explore it." The room leaned in. For the next hour, they worked. Dr. Lin proposed one approach, elegant but incomplete. Dr. Patel introduced a combinatorial model, promising but unstable. Aiden spoke with sharp confidence. "Clearly, this recursive term collapses under spectral reflection. The solution space is trivial." Crowley frowned. "Perhaps, but have you tested the full fold?" Aiden waved dismissively. "It won't hold." Crowley glanced at Eliza. "Miss Moore, any thoughts?" Eliza's heart pounded. She stared at the board. The recursive pattern shimmered before her, familiar yet elusive. I'm not sure yet," she whispered. Aiden smirked. "No shame in that. This is advanced work." Eliza bit her lip, but something stirred in her mind. "Pattern," her father's voice echoed. "Look beneath the surface." She opened her notebook, flipping pages. There, an old sketch her father had drawn. Recursive spiral transforms linked to prime harmonic series. "He chased this once," she recalled. Her fingers trembled. "Professor, may I try something?" Crowley smiled. "Of course." She rose. Aiden leaned back, arms crossed. Eliza approached the board. Her voice shook at first. "If we treat the recursive fold not as a reflection but as a progressive spiral through harmonic primes, we might preserve stability." She chalked the first sequence. Then, applying a variant of the Dirichlet kernel, one my father explored, we can resolve the eigenstates without collapse. She wrote swiftly now, hand steady. The board filled with her path. Dr. Lin leaned forward, eyes alight. "Fascinating," she whispered. Dr. Patel murmured, "I hadn't considered that kernel here." Aiden's smile faded. Eliza stepped back. "It's incomplete, but I think it holds." Silence. Then Crowley spoke softly. "Extraordinary." Dr. Lin clapped lightly. "Very elegant, Eliza." Dr. Patel nodded. A promising direction indeed. Aiden sat rigid, jaw tight. The method is unorthodox, he said coolly. Crowley smiled. As are many breakthroughs, Mr. Clark. Eliza returned to her seat, heart racing. Dr. Lynn leaned over. Your father must have been remarkable. Eliza whispered, He was. After the seminar, as others packed their things, Aiden approached. Miss Moore? She looked up. Yes? His voice was low. This is my field. My thesis. Don't think a few tricks from an old notebook make you equal. She swallowed. I'm not trying to compete. Good. Remember that. He turned sharply and left. Eliza sat frozen. Dr. Lynn touched her arm. Ignore him, she said gently. You have a gift. Let it shine. Tears stung Eliza's eyes. Thank you. Crowley approached. Walk with me, he said. They strolled the sunlit corridor. You handled yourself well, he said warmly. But Aiden... Crowley shook his head. He is young and prideful. Pay it no mind. I don't want to cause trouble. You're not. You're inspiring us. They paused before a tall window. Eliza, Crowley said softly, I want to propose something. She turned. Would you consider formal study here, as a special scholar? Her breath caught. I can't afford it. I will arrange funding. You've more than earned it. If you're willing, we'll begin the process. Tears welled. Professor, Speak to your mother, then tell me. She nodded, voice breaking. Thank you. Truly. He smiled. You've brought new life to this place, Eliza. Never doubt that. That evening, Eliza returned home. Her mother looked up anxiously. How was today? Eliza dropped her bag, trembling. Mama, they want me to study. Here, for real. Her mother gasped. Eliza, that's incredible. Tears flowed. I'm scared. Her mother rose, embracing her. You're brave and ready. Your father would be so proud. But what about you? I'll manage. Seeing you chase your dream, that is healing enough. They held each other, sobbing quietly. For the first time in years, joy filled their tiny home. Late that night, Eliza sat at her desk. She opened her father's notebook. You helped me today, Dad, she whispered. She traced the spiral sketch. Tomorrow, I will walk through the door you always saw for me. She closed the book, placed it reverently beside her, and drifted to sleep. For the first time in a long time, with hope. 2 weeks had passed since Eliza Moore first dared lift the chalk in Harvard's seminar room. Now, each morning found her walking the marble corridors with growing purpose. Though she still wore the same simple clothes and carried the same battered notebook, something inside her had changed. She belonged here. Not because anyone had granted her permission, but because she had earned her place. Yet not all welcomed her ascent. Aiden Clark watched each new seminar with cold calculation. His pride could not bear this 17-year-old dishwasher solving problems he himself had struggled with. She won't last, he told himself. I'll see to that. On a crisp Thursday morning, Professor Crowley summoned Eliza to his office. She entered nervously. You asked to see me? Yes, he smiled. Sit, Eliza. She did. Next week, he began, the department is hosting a major conference on advanced harmonic analysis. Her eyes widened. Scholars from MIT, Princeton, Oxford will attend, including some of the world's foremost minds in this field. Eliza swallowed. Why are you telling me this? Crowley smiled. Because I want you to participate. Shock. Professor, I can't. You can, he said firmly. Not as a headliner, but as part of my session, to present your father's kernel variant and your recent work on recursive folds. She stared. In front of them? Yes. Tears pricked. I'm not ready. You are, he said gently, and you will have my full support. He leaned forward. You've come far, Eliza. Now it is time to share your voice with the world. For days, she prepared. Each evening after shift, she pored over her father's notes and refined her diagrams. Her mother watched with quiet pride. He would be so proud of you, she whispered. I hope so, Eliza replied. Each day brought new waves of doubt. I'm just a dishwasher. I have no degree. What if I fail? But then she would trace the silver spiral at her throat. Always keep learning, her father's voice reminded. And always keep going, she whispered. The morning of the conference dawned cold and bright. Eliza dressed carefully, a borrowed blouse, her cleanest skirt. At her throat gleamed the spiral pendant. She carried her notebook close, heart pounding. As she entered the grand lecture hall, the hum of voices filled the air. Dozens of scholars milled about, men and women in fine suits, speaking in rapid, erudite tones. I don't belong here, the old fear whispered. But she touched the pendant. Yes, you do. She spotted Professor Crowley near the front. Eliza, he called warmly. Over here. She joined him, breathless. Ready? As I'll ever be. He smiled. Good. You'll do wonderfully. Aiden approached then, eyes cool. Ah, Miss Moore. Presenting today? Yes. Brave. I hope the audience is charitable. She met his gaze. I'll do my best. His smile didn't reach his eyes. We shall see. Soon the hall filled. Crowley took the podium. Welcome, colleagues, to today's session on emerging directions in harmonic analysis. Applause. We begin with an unexpected voice, one who has reminded us that brilliance knows no credentials. He smiled at Eliza. Miss Eliza Moore. A stunned murmur rippled through the crowd. Eliza rose, trembling. She approached the podium, hands shaking. Dozens of eyes stared. I can't do this. But then she felt the silver spiral warm against her skin. Keep solving. She began. Good morning. My name is Eliza Moore. I'm not a graduate student. I'm not a professor. I was, until recently, a dishwasher in this building. A hushed silence. But I stand here today because of a man who taught me that math is not a gate, but a bridge. My father. Tears pricked. Today I will share a variant kernel he explored, one that recently helped resolve a long-standing recursive fold problem. She turned to the screen, displaying her father's diagram. This spiral kernel preserves harmonic integrity through progressive folds, avoiding destructive interference common in standard models. She traced the flow. Applied here, it allows for stable eigenstate resolution, as demonstrated in our recent work on seminar problem number 6. The room leaned forward, eyes sharpened. When she finished, a stunned silence hung. Then, thunderous applause. Dr. Lin beamed. Dr. Patel nodded in respect. Crowley smiled proudly. Well done, Eliza. But Aiden rose. A question, Miss Moore. Her heart pounded. Yes? You cite stability, but how does your kernel behave under nonlinear parametric shifts? Surely it degrades. A trap. The room held its breath. Eliza swallowed. Then memory stirred. Her father's scribbled margin note. Nonlinear shift countered via adaptive phase modulation. She breathed. By introducing adaptive phase modulation, as my father outlined here, the kernel maintains stability even under nonlinear shifts. She displayed the page. Aiden paled. Murmurs of approval rippled. Dr. Lin clapped softly. Excellent handling. Aiden sat, defeated. Eliza exhaled. She had done it. Afterward, scholars approached. Brilliant work! Your father's insights were ahead of their time. We hope to see more from you. Dr. Lin embraced her. You have a rare gift, Eliza. Welcome. Dr. Patel smiled. You belong here. Eliza's eyes shone. Thank you. Professor Crowley approached. You made us proud today. I was so afraid. And you triumphed. He handed her an envelope. A formal invitation to join the department as a special scholar. Tuition waived. Full access. Tears flowed freely. Professor, You've earned this, Eliza. Your father's light shines through you. Now, let it shine for the world. That evening, Eliza returned home. Her mother rose anxiously. How was it? Eliza's voice trembled. Mama, I did it. She showed the invitation. Her mother wept, embracing her. I'm so proud of you. They held each other, tears of joy flowing. He would be so proud, too, her mother whispered. Eliza smiled through tears. I hope he was watching. That night, by candlelight, Eliza opened her father's notebook one more time. We did it, Dad, she whispered. And tomorrow, we begin again. The day after the conference, Eliza Moore stood before the towering oak doors of Harvard's Department of Mathematics, not as an outsider, but as an invited special scholar. The change was subtle, but she felt it, with every step. Students and professors alike now nodded to her in the halls. Some smiled. A few whispered. And one pair of eyes, Aiden Clark's, burned colder than ever. She doesn't belong here, he told himself. She must be shown her place. Eliza entered room 314 early that morning. Professor Crowley greeted her warmly. Welcome back, Eliza. How does it feel? Strange, wonderful, a little terrifying, she admitted. He smiled. That is the right feeling. If you're not a little terrified, you're not learning. She laughed softly. Now, today we face something new. He gestured to the board. Written in bold chalk were the words, "The death problem." A long-standing open question in harmonic recursion. Eliza frowned. Death problem? A dark nickname, Crowley explained. Many have attempted this. All failed. No published solution exists. It is thought unsolvable by current methods. He tapped the board. Today we will attempt it together. Eliza swallowed. Together, she whispered. At 10:00 a.m., the seminar room filled. Dr. Lin smiled warmly at Eliza. Dr. Patel offered a respectful nod. Aiden entered last, eyes sharp. Ah, the death problem, he remarked. Perhaps Miss Moore will solve it in an afternoon. Dr. Lin frowned. Careful, Aiden. Crowley spoke. Let us proceed, Miss Moore. Your insights are most welcome. The problem was brutal. An advanced recursive harmonic sequence with non-linear chaotic components, resistant to all known forms of resolution. For hours they worked. Dr. Lin proposed an elegant transform, partial success. Dr. Patel introduced a combinatorial cascade, unstable. Aiden advanced a complex spectral model, collapsed under test. The room grew tense. Crowley finally spoke. Any further insights? Silence. Aiden glanced at Eliza. Perhaps Miss Moore has no father's note to save her this time. A cruel barb. Eliza's heart pounded. Look beneath the surface, her father's voice whispered. She flipped through her notebook. There, a half-finished diagram her father had sketched. Recursive phase spirals with dynamic anchor points. Could it? She rose slowly. Professor, may I try something? Of course. She approached the board, hands trembling. What if we treat the recursion not as a static loop, but as a dynamic spiral with shifting anchor points? She chalked the first sequence. By introducing adaptive phase modulation, as my father explored, we can potentially stabilize the chaos. She wrote swiftly, breath steady. The room leaned forward. Then, applying a parametric adjustment at each anchor, like this. The board filled. She stepped back. It's incomplete, but it may hold. Silence. Dr. Lin rose. Brilliant, she whispered. Dr. Patel murmured, I had not considered dynamic anchors here. Crowley's eyes shone. Extraordinary, Eliza. Aiden sat rigid, jaw clenched. It's untested, he said coldly. Then we test, Crowley said. They ran simulations. Minutes ticked by. The model held. Stable. Elegant. Complete. Gasps. Applause. She's done it, Dr. Lin whispered. Crowley smiled. Miss Moore, you may have solved the death problem. Tears welled in Eliza's eyes. I only followed my father's path. And made it your own, Crowley said softly. After the seminar, word spread fast. The dishwasher solved the death problem. She's a prodigy. Harvard has a new star. Eliza heard none of it. She sat alone in the quiet of room 314, tracing the spiral on her pendant.
"We did it, Dad,"
she whispered.
"And they finally see me."
Aiden stormed through the halls. "This cannot stand," he seethed. But in every corner he heard the same words. Eliza Moore. Brilliant. A mind beyond her years. His jealousy burned. "I will find a way," he vowed. "She won't outshine me again." That evening, Eliza returned home glowing. Her mother embraced her. They said, "You solved it?"
"I think so."
Eliza smiled through tears. "Oh, Eliza, your father would be so proud." I hope he was watching. They held each other long into the night. For the first time, their tiny apartment felt filled with light. For the first time, the future seemed wide open. In his study, Crowley wrote late into the night. Eliza Moore, the death problem, resolved. He smiled. A dishwasher no more, a scholar, a star, and this is only the beginning. He leaned back, eyes bright. The world will soon know her name. In the days that followed, whispers of Eliza Moore filled every corner of Harvard's mathematics halls. The dishwasher who solved the death problem. 17, no formal training. Her father's spiral kernel may open new directions. Professors from across the country emailed Professor Crowley, requesting access to Eliza's notes. Students hovered at the edges of seminars, hoping to glimpse the girl who had dared what others could not. For Eliza, the attention was surreal. Each morning, as she walked Harvard's storied corridors, heads turned. Some smiled, some whispered, and some, like Aiden Clark, glared. Professor Crowley called her into his office one crisp morning. "You're becoming quite the celebrity," he smiled. "It feels strange," Eliza admitted. "You've earned it," he said. "And now, more opportunities arise." He handed her a letter. "Dr. Miriam Zhao, chair of harmonic research at MIT, wishes to meet you. She's offering collaborative work on kernel dynamics." Eliza's breath caught. "At MIT?" "Yes. They are quite impressed. As am I." Tears prickled. "I never imagined this." "You imagined it," Crowley said gently. "Now you're living it." The next week brought a whirlwind. Eliza met with Dr. Zhao, who marveled at her intuitive grasp of dynamic transforms. "Your father's ideas were ahead of their time," Zhao said, "and your extensions show rare brilliance." She invited Eliza to present at an upcoming MIT colloquium. "We would be honored to host you." Eliza smiled shyly. "Thank you, Dr. Zhao." Her world was opening wider than she had ever dreamed, but shadows still lingered. In the quiet of Harvard's corridors, Aiden Clark plotted. "She must be humbled," he seethed. And so he devised a trap. At the next advanced seminar, he would present a deceptively simple problem, one that appeared solvable but contained a hidden paradox. If Eliza attempted it unprepared, she would stumble. Her rising star would dim. "Let's see how the dishwasher handles this," he thought coldly. The day of the seminar dawned bright. Room 322 buzzed with anticipation. Eliza entered, notebook in hand, heart steady. Dr. Lin smiled warmly. Dr. Patel nodded in respect. Aiden stood at the board, eyes gleaming. "Colleagues, today I present a new challenge. The nested harmonic cascade problem." He outlined the sequence. To the untrained eye, it seemed approachable. Recursive folds with a clear harmonic base. But deep within, Aidan had embedded a self-referential paradox, a mathematical snare. "Let us attempt it," he said smoothly. "Miss Moore, your insights are always welcome." A challenge, public and sharp. Eliza's heart pounded. "Is this a test?" she wondered. Crowley met her gaze, eyes calm. "Proceed carefully," his look seemed to say. For the next hour, they worked. Dr. Lin proposed a partial path. Dr. Patel advanced an elegant reduction, which ultimately failed. Eliza studied the board, frowning. Something was wrong. "Look beneath the surface," her father's voice whispered. She flipped through her notebook. There. A scribbled note she had barely understood before. Recursive paradox detection via spiral phase mapping. Her father had once explored the very trap Aidan had set. "It's a paradox," she realized. She rose slowly. "Professor, may I speak?" "Of course," Crowley said. She approached the board, voice clear. "This problem contains a hidden paradox, a self-referential recursion that collapses at its third harmonic tier." Gasps. Aidan stiffened. "I propose we map the spiral phase space, as shown here, to expose the inconsistency." She chalked her father's method. The paradox revealed itself. The cascade was unsolvable by design. The room buzzed. Dr. Lin smiled. "Brilliant detection." Dr. Patel nodded. "Elegant and precise." Crowley beamed. "Miss Moore, you've not only avoided the trap, you've taught us a new method for paradox detection." Thunderous applause. Aidan paled, jaw clenched. "You planned this?" Crowley asked quietly after the session. Aidan said nothing, and left in silence. That evening, in Crowley's office, Eliza sat quietly. "I was afraid," she admitted. "And you overcame," Crowley said warmly. He handed her another letter. "The International Conference on Harmonic Structures wishes to invite you. Keynote presentation." Eliza's eyes widened. "Me?" "Yes. Your work is now inspiring the field." Tears flowed. "Professor, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," he smiled. "I will," she whispered. At home, her mother embraced her. "They want you to speak internationally?" "Yes, Mama." "Oh, Eliza, your father would be so proud." "I hope he's watching." They held each other, tears mingling with joy. "You've come so far," her mother whispered, "and you will go further still." Late that night, Eliza opened her father's notebook. "You helped me again today, Dad," she whispered. "And now, I will help others." She traced the spiral gently. The journey continues. Outside, the stars shone bright. Inside, so did she. The news spread quickly. Eliza Moore, 17, to keynote the International Conference on Harmonic Structures. Scholars from across the world took notice. The dishwasher prodigy. Her kernel variant reshaped recursion models. A new voice for a new era. For Eliza, it felt like a dream. Each morning she prepared, refining her slides, rehearsing her words. Professor Crowley guided her patiently. Speak clearly. Speak from the heart. You know this work better than anyone.
But what if I fail?
She whispered. You won't, he smiled. And if you stumble, stumble forward. The day of the conference dawned bright over Vienna. Eliza had never flown before, never spoken outside Harvard. Now she would stand before hundreds, the finest minds in the field. As she dressed, a simple navy dress, her father's spiral pendant shining, her hands trembled.
Dad, give me strength,
she whispered. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. You belong there, Eliza, and you carry your father's light with you. The grand auditorium buzzed. Scholars from MIT, Oxford, Tokyo, Berlin filled the seats. The keynote program read, Dynamic Kernel Approaches to Recursive Harmonic Systems, Eliza Moore. Many whispered, a 17-year-old? No formal degree? We shall see. Eliza sat backstage, heart racing. Crowley appeared. You're ready, he smiled. I'm terrified. Good, he grinned. That means you care. He placed a steady hand on her shoulder. Go, and teach us. The lights dimmed. A voice announced, Our keynote speaker, Eliza Moore. Thunderous applause. Eliza stepped into the light, pulse pounding. She reached the podium, breath shallow. Dozens of cameras flashed. I can't do this. Then her fingers brushed the spiral at her throat. Keep solving. She looked up. Good morning, she began softly. My name is Eliza Moore. Until a few months ago, I was a dishwasher at Harvard. Gasps. I stand here today because my late father taught me that math is not a gate, but a bridge. Tears prickled. Today I will share how his spiral kernel has enabled new approaches to recursive harmonic structures. She advanced her slides. Confidence grew. By treating recursion as dynamic spirals, with adaptive anchors, we stabilize chaotic systems previously thought unsolvable. The room leaned forward. Scholars scribbled notes. Here is the application to the death problem. Gasps. Applause. And here, the paradox detection method we recently developed. More murmurs. Eliza smiled inwardly. I'm doing it, Dad. Then, disaster. As she reached her final section, the projector glitched. Slides flickered, then vanished. A stunned silence. Technicians scrambled. We've lost the feed, one whispered. Eliza's heart pounded. They'll think I'm a fraud. She looked to Crowley in the front row. He met her gaze and nodded once. You know this, his eyes said. A deep breath. Ladies and gentlemen, Eliza said, voice steady. Let me show you, without slides. She turned to the chalkboard. At the heart of this approach is intuition, not machinery. She picked up chalk. Let me draw it for you. The spiral kernel. Live. Gasps. She chalked swiftly. Clean, elegant strokes. Here, the recursive anchor mapping. Here, adaptive phase modulation. And here, the paradox countermeasure. The room was riveted. Cameras flashed. When she stepped back, the board sang with clarity. Even without slides, she smiled, the math speaks. Thunderous applause erupted. Scholars rose, a standing ovation. Crowley beamed. Tears streamed down Eliza's face.
Thank you, she whispered. Thank you, Dad.
Afterward, the impact was immediate. Dr. Zhao embraced her. Brilliant. Beyond brilliant. Dr. Patel approached. You've changed the field today. Even Aiden, watching remotely from Harvard, stared in stunned silence. She's more than I imagined, he whispered. And I was wrong. Backstage, Crowley hugged Eliza. You soared, Eliza. I almost panicked. And then you showed them the purest math of all, live from the heart. She smiled through tears. I just followed my father's path. And now, you lead your own. Later that evening in her hotel room, Eliza opened her father's notebook. We did it, Dad, she whispered. And now, the whole world knows your music. She traced the spiral gently. Outside, the lights of Vienna sparkled. Inside, her heart burned bright. Tomorrow, we begin again. The return to Harvard was surreal. As Eliza Moore stepped off the plane from Vienna, she was no longer just the dishwasher prodigy. She was now a recognized voice in the global mathematics community. Headlines echoed across academia. 17-year-old stuns international conference. Spiral kernel poised to reshape harmonic recursion. Eliza Moore, a new era begins. But fame mattered little to her. What mattered was the spiral she carried. In her father's memory, in her own heart. The next morning, as Eliza walked Harvard's familiar stone halls, students and professors alike greeted her warmly. Congratulations, Eliza. Brilliant keynote. We're honored to have you here. Yet amidst the praise, she remained grounded. Always keep learning, her father's words echoed. Always stay humble, her mother had whispered. She smiled softly and pressed forward. In room 314, Professor Crowley awaited. Welcome home, he smiled. Thank you, she beamed. You have done something extraordinary, Eliza. And yet, I sense you have more to give. I hope so, she said softly. He handed her a letter. The department wishes to offer you a permanent research fellowship with full mentorship and the freedom to pursue your work here. Her breath caught. A fellowship? Me? Yes, officially. No longer special scholar, now a full member of this academic family. Tears welled. Professor, You've earned it, Eliza. We are honored to have you. She embraced him gratefully. Thank you for everything. News spread. Eliza Moore, research fellow. From dishwasher to rising star. Even those who had once doubted now spoke her name with respect. One afternoon, as Eliza prepared for a lecture, a quiet knock sounded at her door. She opened it and stood stunned. Aiden Clark stood there, hands trembling slightly. May I come in? He asked softly. She nodded. Please. He entered, awkward. Eliza, I owe you an apology. She looked at him, eyes calm. Go on. I was jealous, proud. I set that trap in the seminar. She nodded silently. And you saw through it, with grace, with brilliance. I was wrong about you. His voice broke, and I am sorry. Tears pricked her eyes. Thank you, Aiden.
That means a great deal. If you would, I would like to collaborate, to learn from you, if you'll allow it. She smiled softly. Of course. We all learn from each other. He exhaled, relieved. Thank you. They shook hands. A new beginning. Weeks passed. Eliza settled into her fellowship role, but one dream remained. I want to teach, to give back, to open the bridge for others. Crowley smiled when she told him, then do it. And so, the Spiral Seminar was born. A weekly open session, free to all, where Eliza would teach her father's methods, her own discoveries, and foster new voices. Flyers soon adorned the halls. The Spiral Seminar, led by Eliza Moore. All welcome, no prerequisites. Bring curiosity. The first session arrived. Eliza stood nervously at the front of room 322. She half feared an empty room. Then the door opened. One by one, they came. Students, professors, even local high school teachers. And at the back, a small, thin girl about 10 years old, clutching a worn notebook. Eliza's heart caught. She looks like me, she thought. The girl's eyes shone with wonder. Hello, Eliza smiled. I'm Sophie, the girl whispered. I love math, but they say I'm too young to understand. Eliza knelt. You're never too young. Or too old. You're welcome here, Sophie. The girl beamed. Eliza rose. Welcome, everyone. Today, we begin. She drew a simple spiral on the board. This is not just a shape. It is a path, a way of thinking. She spoke of recursion, of intuition, of her father's lessons. Eyes lit up. Even the professors leaned forward. Sophie scribbled notes furiously, eyes wide. The spiral continues, Eliza said softly. From my father, to me, to all of you. And now, perhaps, through you, to the future. Thunderous applause. Eliza smiled through tears. We begin again. Always. That evening, back in her small apartment, Eliza sat quietly. Her mother brewed tea nearby. The seminar went well? Better than I dreamed, Eliza smiled. And the little girl, Sophie? She reminded me of me once. Her mother's eyes glistened. Your father would be so proud, Eliza. She touched the spiral pendant. I hope he was watching. He was, her mother whispered. They embraced. Late that night, alone, Eliza opened her father's notebook. We did it, Dad, she whispered. The spiral continues. She added a new page. Sophie, age 10, first student of the Spiral Seminar. The bridge is open. She smiled. Outside, stars wheeled in their endless spirals. Inside, a new journey had begun. And the spiral, ever turning, ever growing, would never stop.